Hey guys, Stef here. You see, I'm not on camera yet, and I should be out of focus. And why am I doing this? I'm just trying to spice up the videos a little bit. So, this vlog is going to be a little bit about coding, a little bit about business, and stuff related. So, why did I walk off or come off camera view and then come into camera view? And where I should be in focus now, or when I first walked in, I shouldn't have been in focus. Two things. Number one, I went out after about 1.5 years of doing YouTube videos every day as a hobby and experiment, and as a way to do a little A/B testing, as they would say in psychology. I wanted to test out different ideas as well, so I had to figure YouTube was a good place to explore that with the audience, and I got to meet some people as well, so it's kind of cool. This YouTube thing, it's still as much as it is a hobby. Well, let me back up here. When I first got into it, it was more or less a hobby and experiment. I also wanted to improve my ability to speak on camera. Now, you wouldn't think that given how I was just stuttering 2 seconds ago, but it's really helped quite a bit. All right, but now after a year, I don't know, 1 year and 4 months or something, I've done 400 vlogs like this. And so I'm much more comfortable in front of the camera. It's very relaxing now for me. And it's still a hobby, and I really enjoy it. I can't wait to come in front of the camera. And the only thing that keeps me from doing 3 videos a day is that I have to do other work. But it's also become a tool for me. I've been able to expose my work to a bunch of people out there. I've been able to refine my skill sets, of course. And I've been able to test out different ideas and get feedback from people. So if you participate in that, I appreciate it because it's just kind of useful. People who don't remember the web, pre-web, this type of information was extremely expensive to get at, sort of market sampling and so on. When I started my first business, I was 18 years old, so it was like 800,000 years ago. Not 800,000 years ago. Breaking news, Stef lies about when he started his business. He said it was 800,000 years ago, and that's factually incorrect. Anyway, that was a joke. No, so I started when I was 18, so that's a long time ago, given that I'm in my late 40s. Anyhow, this was pre-web, in fact. I started my first business pre-web, and I had to do research back in those days using traditional means. I had to go to libraries and buy reports and stuff. I wasn't in the tech business. I was in the import-export business, and then I had water purification products and so on. All right, went off on a tangent. So let's talk about this huge camera I bought. Very expensive camera. And if you would have asked me 2 years ago if I would have bought this kind of pro camera, I would have said, no chance, not what I do. But now that Studio Web, which is my core business, which is an educational app, it's a SaaS that schools use all over different parts, a bunch of places in the US, Canada, South Africa, and Asia. It's used quite a bit, South America. It's used all over the place, and it's growing. And so now that the core app and its functionality and the core curriculum is in place, I'm ready for the next stage. The next stage is, of course, marketing. And marketing is so important. Some famous marketer, whose name I forget, said that the last stage in the manufacturing process is actually the marketing. If you have a great product, it doesn't matter if it's great if you don't market it properly. And one of the examples that stands out for me is David Bowie. David Bowie, one of the most famous artists of our time. He died about a year or so ago. But about 5-6 years ago, he released an album, and he decided not to promote it or market it or tour it. In the record business, in the music business, you tour to promote your albums. And he decided not to. And even though he's one of the most important artists in the last 50, 60 years, his album went nowhere because he didn't promote it. And I don't know if it was good or bad. I didn't even listen to it, and I'm a huge David Bowie fan. And nonetheless, by not marketing it, he doomed the product to failure. So one of the things you have to do when you get out there, if you decide to become an entrepreneur And no matter what type of business you get into, you're going to have to go out there and promote and market it. These days, that means a website, that means social media, first and foremost. Those are two most important things. Traditional media, whether it be radio, TV, or newspapers, that's for the most part, yeah, and also paid click advertising on Google, or I guess Bing for two people who use Bing. Anyway, so because of that, because I was getting into the marketing phase of my business, and I used the ADD, let me get that. For all my YouTube videos, I use this thing, up into the recent ones. This is a Canon ADD. I don't know if it's in focus or not. This is a great camera. It's like a mid-level, it's a mid-level consumer camera, and it shoots video. It's pretty good. Camera's got everybody else beat for two reasons. A, the skin tones, and B, the autofocus system on the Canon is the best. Sony is catching up, but Canon's the best. And so that's why if you're a YouTuber or you're a solo video shooter, this is the camera for you if you're starting out. So I used this camera for a year and a half, shot 400 videos with this, at least for YouTube, and I shot other videos for off of YouTube. So very good. I'm still keeping it for stills and for other things. But I decided it was time to upgrade. So I upgraded to this camera here. Another camera, but a Canon Cinema line, and it's muchos buccarinos compared to this. It's not even close. A lot of people might say it's overkill, but I decided since this was going to be key to my work every day, I wanted all the capabilities that this pro camera was going to give me. And it gives me many capabilities beyond video quality. Now, you may not see the video quality now because I have it basically on its lowest setting at this point. For vlogging, it's fine. But it's got all kinds of other capabilities that this camera doesn't have, so I don't have to worry about shooting video. It's much more fault tolerant. It's kind of like investing in a hardcore, better servers, where you know the servers are not going to go down, you know they're going to be automatic redundancies, automatic backups, so you don't have to worry about things messing up on you. It's mission critical. So I'm doing, over the year, I'm going to do hundreds of videos, and I don't want to mess around with autofocusing, with lighting. I don't want to mess around with color. I don't want to mess around with sound. I know that this camera, nothing's perfect, but this camera is far more capable than this camera and most other cameras, so I use it, and I paid a premium for it. Another thing I got, and I can walk off camera, is I got this wireless lavalier mic, and it's a pro mic, costs a lot of money too. But you know what it does? Again, it's fault tolerant, meaning it tolerates faults much more effectively than your entry-level mic or middle-of-the-road mic. First of all, it sounds better, I think, although a lot of people might not hear the sound difference. But what it does do is that it has rock-solid connectivity. So I know that, even though I'm in my kitchen now, and I'm preparing a quick tea here, you can still hear me clearly. Another thing that I know is that it has something called, I think it's called an attenuator. It's basically a tool or system built into it that will deal with the variations in loudness in my voice. So I could talk really loud, or I can talk at a very low voice, and you'll still hear me pretty clearly. So it manages that automatically, which is amazing. You don't hear it fluctuating, which is very cool. And another thing that it does, it takes care of the essing, the piercing essing sounds that I would get with my other mic. Why do I want this? Because I don't want to have to deal with it in post. I don't want to have to edit this and manage the sound and so on. I don't have to do any of that. Cheers. So that's a big reason why you buy pro equipment, whether it be cameras, wireless mics, or IDEs, software code editors. You pay a little bit more money. You pay a little money for the professional tools, so you get the professional workflow. And the one thing that is most important as a professional, entrepreneur, software developer, is to have a smooth workflow so that you're calm and relaxed mentally, you're not dealing with headaches of configurations and so forth, so that you can get out the best work possible in the least amount of time. As you develop your skills and as you develop in your career, whether you're again, entrepreneur or coder, time is the most precious thing that you have. That's what you're going to discover. So I'd rather spend 2-3 times more for a professional tool to save me a lot of time. Yeah, that's an important rule. It's an important rule. And I'm going to talk about that at length in my business battle plan course, something I learned the hard way in different industries where whenever, here's the rule, whenever I try to cheap out on something, it always ends up costing me much more in the end. So anyway, keep that in mind. Of course, when you're first starting out, you're broke, so you get what you can. But it's something to just keep in the back of your mind. Don't try to cheap out. You know, when you're a student, yeah, you got to go cheap. But when you get pro, having these tools that make it easy for you, they're worth their weight, you know. So another thing I want to talk about is always having dual outcomes or dual potential outs in whatever you do. This is something I always try to do. So let me give you a quick example. When I build a course for Studio Web, the Python course, the JavaScript course, many of the courses in the IWD package, the development package, the key courses, the foundation courses, and there's a huge amount of work in those courses, they were designed specifically for Studio Web, which is my interactive app, and it's, in my opinion, it's the best one out there in the market by far, and that's why I got more and more schools adopting it. And so I built those courses, the Python, JavaScript, HTML5, CSS3, the PHP. I built those specific courses for Studio Web, but I also leveraged them for the retail market, totally different markets. So one's institutional, schools, and one is for retail in IWD, for instance. So there's an example of dual purpose, if you will. Though the target market really is Studio Web, I leveraged that for retail as well. So it's kind of a dual purpose there. With this camera here, for example, because it's a high-end cinema camera, and most people don't need to film videos every day like me, they would rent these things. Now, the cost of rental of these cameras, based on what I've seen in the market, is significantly more, is 50% more than my monthly cost for this thing. So if you divide up the payments on this, now I could have bought it cash, not a problem. But then Canon said to me, hey, we'll give it to you no interest, free money, right? So why put down the money when you can just pay Canon a monthly fee on no interest? That's the best way to go about doing it. Never lease something that you can't afford to buy with cash. Never buy it. Never have credit card debt. Credit cards debt is the stupidest debt you could possibly have. Why? Because you're paying huge interest rates. So for me, I use credit cards all the time, one credit card, but I pay off the balance every month. I never pay interest on my credit card debt. I never pay interest on my credit card. Credit cards are transactional tools. They're there to facilitate the process of acquiring goods or services. And I got this great credit card where it triples my warranties on anything that I do buy. Anyhow, so I bought this camera and I could have paid it outright, but because it was 0% interest, why not? So I buy it, and my monthly cost to buy this, I could cover the total cost plus an extra 50% if I just rented out this camera once a month, one day a month. Now, I don't know if I'm going to do that because I use it quite a bit, but it's something I could do to cover all my costs. And again, if I would have got a middle-of-the-road camera, there would have been no rental market for it because people would just buy the middle of the road. But this camera, a lot of people won't buy it, but they'll rent it. So it creates a market opportunity for me. It creates a second out for this camera. Another reason I bought a high-end camera and I bought a high-end device, it gives me the second out where I've discovered in my life that if you buy designer furniture, designer products, top of the line is stuff that holds its value. So it has to be the cream of the crop. So I bought high-end designer furniture, but the name brand is not known so much, Italian built and et cetera, really nice stuff. But I have a difficult time trying to sell it if I want to sell it. I've tried experiments. I put it on Kijiji, Craigslist, and see what happens. On the other hand, with my Eames furniture, which is a super high-end, like that walls, that brown thing is Eames, this chair is Eames. This is like world-class furniture. It doesn't get any higher end. And if I want to sell it, I can sell it for just about what I paid for it, like this. And I've done it a few times, and it's because it's the high end. So when you're looking at anything that you do, I don't know if you understand this tangent or not, but when you're looking at anything that you do, you always try to figure out, how can I benefit in this activity in more than one way? Are there two outs? So with my video courses, I create them for Studio Web, but I know I can market them, sell them to the public as well. For this camera, I need the camera and all the advantages I talked about, but I could also rent it out because it's super high end. And if I want to sell it because it's super high end, unless something happens in the market, I could probably get at least 3/4 of my money back. So you have to look at that and judge the price of the camera, because if it retains a lot of its value because it's super high end, did you really pay that huge price tag for it? Not really, because if you could sell it 2 years later and get 75% of your money, you didn't really spend that whole, you know what I mean? You only spent a small fraction. And of course, because I have a business, I have a corporation, it's bought by the corporation, it's a write-off on the taxes, so it's not nearly as expensive as you think. Here's the thing though, you need either the cash or you need the credit. And that's why, and you get the credit when you have the cash. That's the irony about life. If you have a lot of cash, you can get credit pretty easily. You keep a good credit history. But I'm not an advocate of debt, by the way. I'm going off, this is a Sunday afternoon, so I'm going off on a tangent here. I have no debt. I don't carry debt. I have no debt. The only debt you should have is investment debt and very secure assets like, you know, rental properties or something like that, you know, but or assets that are really core to your business, expensive computers or whatnot. But again, I'll get into all the details in my business course. One of the things I'm going to talk about in my business battle plan, that course that's coming out very soon, I'm going to start releasing videos this week, in fact. Money management and financial skills are a big part of it. It's something that I see out there, when people talk about being an entrepreneur and running a business, starting a business, they sort of, from what I've seen, they gloss over the financials, the money management aspect of it, and that's such a crucial thing. From my observations over the last 28 years of being in business, plus observing my parents' businesses, it's all about money management, because if you got cash in the bank and your money is well managed, even if you have some troubles in your business, things are going, not selling, what drives a company bankrupt is running out of cash. So if you learn to manage your expenses, manage your money, that could almost ensure, with other tactics and strategies, of course, but having good money management will almost ensure success of your business, because it will give you that runway, it will give you that time to get it off the ground. Another thing that people don't talk about enough in the business world and in the entrepreneurial world, if you will, is you got to have the right psychology. I discovered a long time ago in my 20s that entrepreneurs had a very different mindset than people who are not entrepreneurs. It's almost like a whole different worldview, a whole different reality. And you have to harness this and develop this over time. Now, it happens. As you get into business, you start realizing things, you start seeing things from a different perspective. But if you could speed up that process, if you can get to that psychological state, you can get to that point of view, the state of awareness, that psychological awareness, there we go, in business, as an entrepreneur, quicker, it will help you to succeed more quickly, because you'll be able to see opportunities more easily, you'll be able to see risk more easily, so you can avoid them, yada, 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 yada. So that's it for this vlog. How long have I been talking here? Anyway, that's pretty much it. What you're going to see this week is me launching the Business Battle Plan. I decided to release it as a premium forum subscription, if you will. And I will be building up the chapters over the next several weeks, I suppose. And it's going to be 17 chapters. I'm not sure how many lessons, a few lessons per chapter, I would imagine, if not more. And the content's going to be video and audio based, so that you have many different ways to consume the information. And of course, within the premium forum, there'll be summaries and Q&A and write-ups and so forth. And then once the 17 chapters are built, I'm going to continue to put out premium content in that area, specifically related to becoming an entrepreneur, being an entrepreneur, building a business, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it should be a lot of fun because I'm going to bring in a lot of stuff that I don't discuss here on YouTube. So cheers.